So let's talk about puppy teams. I had a viewer ask about whether dogs run the Iditarod more than once, and the answer is, oh, hell yes. Um, these dogs are bred for running. Um, if you watch the videos of the finishes from the Iditarod or from the Yukon Quest, you will see that these dogs are, most of them are happy, happy, happy still. They're wagging their tails. Some of them are still lunging in the harness, ready to go, go, go. So, yeah, these dogs want to run. So that's a thing to keep in mind. That does not excuse any mistreatment of the dogs. It doesn't excuse any forcing of the dogs, but that's why the reputable races like the Iditarod and the Yukon Quest work really, really hard to maintain rules for the safety of the dogs. The dogs left to their own devices would run themselves into the ground, and you hear mushers talking about having to slow the dogs down because they will work themselves entirely too hard at the beginning of the race. They want to run. So, but puppy teams, the teams that you see winning these long races, both the middle distance races and the long distance races, are usually veteran teams. You will have several dogs, if not all the dogs on those teams, have run a 1,000-mile race before. Mushers want an experienced dog. They want a dog that they know will enjoy the run. So we have what are called puppy teams running the Iditarod. These are dogs that have run either never or maybe once. So puppy team is a little bit of a misnomer. The dogs are generally yearlings to 2, sometimes maybe 3. And they are not run to win the race. They are run for fun. The goal, if you are running a puppy team, is to get as many of the dogs across the finish line as you can, regardless of how long it takes. The dogs are supposed to have a good time. You want the dogs to learn the rhythms of running the race, that when you put the straw down, okay, now it's time for me to sleep. You want the dogs to become accustomed to the cycles of eat, sleep, run, eat, sleep, run, snack, run, eat, sleep, run. That's what they need to do. The dogs will run on their own, but learning the rhythm of a race like this, that they have to do with somebody. And plus, you need to get them accustomed to all the other people, all the other dogs on the trail. They have to learn about how to pass, how to be passed, all those sorts of things. You've got to get them accustomed to being held and poked and prodded and checked by vets, because the vets have to have access to the dogs for the dog's safety. So you've got to do all that. Puppy teams are often run by newish mushers under the tutelage of experienced mushers. So, for example, Matt Failer is on the trail right now, and he is very, very excited about his team because it's his team. And he talked about how it's very similar in the pattern of runs and rests to the first time he ran the Iditarod, and he took out one of Martin Boozer's puppy teams. Now, these experienced mushers are not just handing over their dogs to just anyone. The people running their puppy teams have been working with the dogs. They know the dogs. They just haven't done the full race. And usually they've done some smaller races. In fact, in order to qualify for the Iditarod, they have to run a certain number of middle distance races before they can run the Iditarod. So we've got those out there. There are other people who run puppy races or run the puppy teams pretty routinely. And let's talk about Trent Herbst. Trent Herbst, okay, I don't know a whole lot about him except for what I've learned from the Iditarod Insider, but I follow him every year. He's usually middle to back of the pack, and he's running a puppy team for Ed Stelestra, and he summers with them, I think, each year. But Trent Herbst is a 4th grade teacher in Idaho, so he's getting some time off to run these puppies. But his whole job every year is not to win the Iditarod, but to take Ed's puppies, his yearlings, out and, have a good time, go on an extended camping trip with them. Same thing, Alan Moore does the same thing. Now, Alan is usually runs the top team for from SP Kennel for the Yukon Quest, and then his wife, Allie Zirkle, runs the team in the Iditarod, the top teams in the Iditarod. But Alan takes out puppies. He takes out the yearlings and 2-year-olds. Usually they're 2 years old, but sometimes they really are just, they look like puppies compared to what they look like by the time they make the main team. So you go more slowly. You introduce the dogs to the run-rest schedule. You learn who will really enjoy that race. Some dogs are, Alaskan sled dogs want to run, but some of them really only want to run 300 miles. And if you've got a dog that's great for 300 miles, then you race them in the Yukon Quest 300 or the Copper Basin 300. You don't put them out on the trail for the Iditarod because that's not good for the dog. It's not good for you. So this is the way it's done. But puppy teams are fun to watch. They give you a good idea of how a kennel operates when you follow their puppy teams. But there are a lot of mushers on the trail, veteran mushers on the trail right now, who started by running an experienced musher's puppy team, and then they in turn often take someone else eventually under their wing and let them run their puppy team too when their own kennels get big enough. Now some of them are different. Nick Petit, he's run other puppy teams, run somebody else's puppies, but he takes care of, he's got a much smaller kennel, and I get the impression from interviews that he wants to keep his kennel very, very small. So those are they're out there. Some dogs, because they run as puppies, and then they graduate to a bigger team, a more advanced team, and then as they're older, they go back down to the puppy team. Last year, SP Kennel dog Keto, who had led Alan Moore to a couple of Yukon Quest champions and taken Allie to 3 second-place finishes, she led the puppy team. Keto is now 10 or 11, and between the Yukon Quest and the Iditarod, she has run 13,000-mile races. She is not out there now, but she did run last year leading the puppies, because that's the way a lot of the mushers train. It's the way my people train hunting dogs. My people, my family, they're hunters. You take a puppy out with an experienced dog because they learn more from the other dog than you can possibly teach them as a human being. They learn what they are supposed to do by watching their elders. So, yes, dogs run this race more than once. It's very unusual to have a winning dog that has never won it. It does happen, but you don't usually have a winning dog who has never run it. It's an exceptionally gifted dog if it does. And you've got some that just run perennially because that's just what they do. So these dogs are amazing athletes. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to really come up with a human equivalent to what astounding athletes these dogs are.